Visual art students, Mr. Kushla here. I just wanted to record a quick video on one thing I kind of was not able to get to in yesterday's video on Krita, which was texture. I looked at a lot of your artwork. Love you doing a great job getting the color and the shape and some of the shading. But the one thing I do want to focus on just quickly in texture or in this video is texture. So let me do my mango artwork here, and we can start to focus a little on texture. So I'm going to first zoom in on just mango number 3 here and just zoom in on this one. So this mango, remember we did some shading, dark, medium, light, using primarily, when we were choosing our brushes, we were using primarily just this airbrush soft. And this airbrush soft was excellent for creating that nice smooth fade from this color to this color. But actually, Krita has a whole lot of other awesome brushes for creating texture. So if you go down to, if for instance, if your fruit is got a rough edge or it's got a rind to it or there's some sort of speckles, or if you really just want to mess around and create some interesting textures. So we got my brush tool, and now down towards the bottom, there's more stamp textures. We're going to focus first on these fake painting textures. So one is like the watercolor textures. First thing I want to do when I play with any of these texturizer things is I want to actually turn my alpha lock on. I can turn that on here, or I can turn that on here. So that will just keep it to only focusing on this. So now with this watercolor brush selected, I'm going to sample some orange, and I can kind of come in and paint like I normally have been directly on, but it's going to start to create this kind of fake watercolor texture. I'll take some of that white so you can really see it. So that creates a little bit of a speckle version. So this is again the watercolor. It's a little hard to control, but that's partially the randomness of it is what makes it so cool. And now there's actually a few other watercolor brushes. There are these green ones here, and all 3 of those or 4 of those will actually make this simulation of blending with watercolor paint. Now this one looks kind of like a hard edge, so I'm not really feeling that one too much for this, but maybe like one of these other watercolor blenders. And the other thing to notice is it's kind of creating a little bit more randomness to my watercoloring. The other sort of faux brush ones are these purple ones here, and these purple ones are more of to kind of simulate oil paint. I like to use them kind of in a smaller capacity, so just kind of like taking some color and just smearing and brushing, and this is going to kind of move and create a little bit of a rough texture on my mango. So I'm sampling, painting, and that can kind of create a cool one. So that one is, if you're looking, that's called wet bristles rough, but then there's wet bristles smooth, wet bristles circle, just one that just smears. So if you're looking to just kind of smear some paint around, so I'm going to kind of sample a color in the middle. I don't really think that one's that effective right now for this purpose. I might need to turn the opacity down for some of that one for it to smear. So if I click on this, it looks like it's good for blending, but not really good for creating textures. The other one that I wanted to kind of get you into just checking out is if you go down towards the bottom, some of these are kind of cool and are actually called like more of like a stamp tool. So like this one, if I click on it and make a kind of dramatic color like brown, you can see that it kind of creates little like dashes. So that might be good if you're like painting maybe like a watermelon, something like that. I'm just kind of like clicking and moving on. If you take it and blend it, it will actually space them out. So it kind of creates like a fake cross hatching kind of look to it. So you could kind of layer those up and create more of like a grass look. And there's a whole bunch to choose from in terms of stamps for this class. So there's grassier. This looks like it's a fake grass that kind of moves around. So maybe if you're doing a fir, um, And I think this one kind of had some funny looking hearts. If you want to test out any brush, you can always just click in here and kind of test it out to see what it looks like first, or you can literally just paint on it and then just undo it. So other than that, that's the only thing. The only other thing I just want to remind you is that if you have the alpha lock turned off, it will kind of go over the edge. So always try to remember to turn that on so that you can create some more interesting textures with your mangoes or your tangerines or whatever fruit you're choosing from. And then you can just shift to different layers to do different mangoes or different textures on mangoes. I could actually use this to create, maybe I want to use this big leafy brush in the background. So make like a huge, choose like a dark green color and use that to kind of make some speckly texture in the background. Could also turn the opacity down, kind of layer it to make it look more like natural leaves on top of leaves on top of leaves. So just to zoom out, kind of give you a better look of what's going on now. Now that we've added some texture, I kind of went from having these like pristine, perfectly smooth mangoes to something a little bit more natural and realistic. So that's kind of the goal with playing around with texture brushes, is you're not trying to make it look perfect. You're really just trying to actually rough it up so that it makes it look more realistic. So that's it for today, just a little bit on texture with Krita.